Ahoy hoy gang, if this is your first time with us, welcome, and if you're joining us from a previous video, hey, we love to see it, and I hope you're doing well. It's season 11, our first full TBS season. I know I said season 10 was the first TBS season, and it was, but some of the episodes did air on Fox. This is our first one. This is our first TBS original with the Bazooka Sharks. Bazooka Sharks? So, what were the top 5 episodes of this brand new expanded Langley season? There's only one way to find out, so something rhymes with season 11. Here it is, the top 5 episodes of season 11. Yay! Number 5, Roots. From the first introduction of Dr. Calgary and Billy to not only Stan's history with a tree, we also get the first appearance of the Bazooka Sharks, and we get Roger as the Tar King, and Roots feels like that unbridled, this is the season premiere of the first full TBS season, and we are gonna be hitting you with both barrels, and it absolutely works. I don't think Dr. Calgary and Billy could work in the Fox era. I think they're too weird, but they fit TBS perfectly. And it's just, again, there is so many elements. They open it up so fast. Like, arena football is such a creative idea, and they managed to wrap it into the story so brilliantly that it just keeps recurring, and I'm like, oh man, yeah, I love seeing Sky Crooner. Just out of nowhere. I would have never thought an XFL knockoff was gonna do that well or entice me to keep watching American Dad, but it does. It's just, Roots is something special. Roots is truly something genuinely special. On top of, Stan finding love in a tree, but him also understanding the importance he has in Steve's life. You have his conflict with Roger, and then of course the A and B stories tie each other together, and you get a wonderful episode at the end of it. It's just, if you're gonna entice someone on a whole season, Roots is how you do it. Roots is a perfect season premiere. Number 4, The Devil Wears a Lapel Pin. The first time I watched this episode, the B story blew the A story out of the frickin' water. It was not close. And if you don't remember, the B story of this episode is Roger gets a discovery card and tries to find a place that accepts discovery. That's where you get To Me! That's where you get him getting his towel and trying to escape the debt and running into like this 90s mall, and all of that is glorious. Steve along for the ride as Roger uses his discovery card in the most absurd ways. And that's great. That's absolutely wonderful, and it just absolutely pulled me away from everything else in the episode. But every time I revisit it, I keep getting reminded that the A story is actually really good. It's actually probably one of the strongest Haley and Stan episodes of the TBS era, because it talks about how Stan was overly critical of Haley. It focuses on her wanting to get revenge on him until she sees how much the project means to him. And that's such a beautiful mixture of the things that we've seen before. It's such a beautiful play on things like She Will Survive. It really elevates the characters as a whole. Also, I love that Jeff is just along for the ride the entire time. He is out here getting gored by bulls, getting torn apart by Bullock, and just absolutely mutilated to help Haley get her revenge. And it's wonderful. Like, that is a devoted husband right there. I don't know, I like Jeff. Jeff has become such a mainstay of Smith House, and I think The Devil Wears a Lapel Pin is a perfect example of why. He is such a wonderful accent to stories without taking away from them. Even if Jeff has like 8 or 9 lines in an episode, you can bet Jeff Fisher is making sure each of those lines is full of good stoner comedy. It's just, The Devil Wears a Lapel Pin not only has great musical numbers, the B story is fantastic. Just like absolutely outstanding. I was gobsmacked when I saw it the first time. I was utterly gobsmacked. I was like, what the heck is this? What the heck, bro? It's just good TV. It is just good TV. Number 3, Crisscross Applesauce. Admittedly, unlike the last episode where I was like, the B story's amazing and the A story is also amazing, The A story on this episode is fine. The A story, you know, would make the episode as a whole like an 8 out of 10. It is perfectly salvageable. It is Stan teaching Roger how to actually be normal, how to be on his level and not some absolute MVP. And that's fine. You know, you got not Yao Ming and not Shaquille O'Neal teaming up with them to do a basketball tournament and all this. And that's, yeah, that's fine. But the B story is where this episode sings. Much like American Fung, again, I love when American Dad is experimental. And when they do an entire B story based off Trapped in the Closet and just taking it in their own direction, sung by Steve just to let Scott Grimes belt out those silky smooth pipes of his, then you're just getting more quality dadage. Yeah, that B story just takes you for a whirlwind. You never know where it's going to go. You never know what's going to happen next. And it's delightful. It is utterly and completely delightful. The A story is fun. It doesn't take away from anything. Key and Peele are in it. It's fun. It's nice. But the B story, now that's show defining. That is something I still see people losing their minds about today. That is something I hope everyone takes the time and goes and watches Crisscross Applesauce, the Billy Jesusworth story, and appreciates. Because, oh my God. I love it. I love that B story. Steve has some of the strongest stories this season, and it absolutely shows. I'm a fan. I'm an absolute fan. Number 2, Mind Struggle. And going right off of one of the best Steve B stories is one of the best Steve stories in general. Mind Struggle doesn't have a B story. It is all just the family obsessing over these mineral rights, over this salt deposit that Roger had planted in order to take advantage of the Morton salt people, which is great. That's amazing. But you also get why Steve cares so much about them, because it's just, you know, they're his rocks, they're his minerals. There's something he and his dad got to spend time with together. Of course, his dad didn't care. His dad was just trying to get all those rookie cards that would end up in Roger's spokes on his bike. But it doesn't matter, because you still get a super fun adventure. You still get everyone getting corrupted by the salt. And then you have Steve just being this good boy that's just like, no, I just want us all to be a family. And like I said in the review, it's like, if Chris were to do this, Chris would have sold those rights yesterday. If, you know, Bart did it, it would be Bart being a celebrity and then moving into a new house and then everything being lost in the third act for some reason, and everybody moves back into the old house and they patch up the backyard and move on. But it speaks to the writer's beliefs in these characters that they don't take those easier ways out. They don't just show what the family would be like if they had just a ton of money for some reason. Instead, they actually build on the conflict of the family trying to get those salt rights from Steve. Steve feels like the whole family's turned against him. They're all trying to bribe him. Everybody wants the family win-win, but he doesn't see it as a win-win. He sees it as everyone losing. And there's some magic to that. There's some simple beauty in writing a character with such a strong resolve, such a strong candor, that they're not going to be corrupted. They're not going to be twisted. Now, Steve's not a perfect character by any stretch of the imagination. He is not a perfect person, but he is beautifully written, and Scott Grimes gives him such a depth. I don't know. Mind Struggle made me appreciate what Scott Grimes does with Steve on a whole other level. It's just a great episode and easily one of my favorite of the entire TBS era. Number 1, The 200. Look, Fallout New Vegas is arguably my favorite video game of all time. I adore the Fallout aesthetic, so when you give me an American Dad post-apocalyptic 200 episode celebration, I am going to get obsessed. And the fact that it's so dour, so dark, so muted with its tones is gorgeous. I mean, again, this is When people talk about lazy animated comedy, you always hear, it's your Family Guys, your American Dads, your South Parks. But there are examples in each of those shows where they genuinely try and reinvent the animated wheel. In Family Guy's case, it got them canceled twice because they tried to do something different. So they dumbed it down and now it's a huge success. In South Park, it was just they covered topical events and they just made shorter and shorter seasons so they didn't burn out, which was arguably the smart thing to do. But American Dad genuinely invests in its audience, and it really hopes that you just pay attention to what they're saying, pay attention to what they're doing, because they're not going to write these characters as just one-dimensional, who they are, and that's just fine. Like, I mean, when we're given Stan, he is torn apart by remorse. He is feeling guilty and down. Even if he's cutting away to jokes, the overall vibe of that post-apocalyptic landscape is so dark and grim that, again, if Family Guy or The Simpsons did it, they would be throwing jokes in every 2 seconds to sort of lighten up the mood. But because they keep it dark, because they make Stan fight for a second chance at seeing his family again, it makes it that much more satisfying when you get to that conclusion. If you trust the show to take you on a journey, it's gonna take you somewhere really, really cool. The 200 is an episode idea that only American Dad, I feel, could properly pull off, especially as a 200 episode celebration. It's just, there's nothing that's like, wow, 200 episodes, thanks a lot, guys, other than all the Rogers just running down the bank. You're like, oh, I get it, 200, there we go. But it's like, okay, sure, we have that, but there's so much else to appreciate. It's also the wonderful fact that, like, at the end of the episode, they don't go back in time. It wasn't a dream. He lives in the post-apocalypse with his family. He has his granddaughter on his shoulder as he looks off at a brighter new dawn. That is how you leave a series, if you have to, with a satisfying conclusion. The 200 was not only a wonderful celebration of a show that has warmed the hearts of millions, but it was also a beautiful send-off to it if that was where they had to end. It's gorgeous. And there we have it, folks. That was season 11. Anything you think I was right on, wrong on? What were your top 5 episodes of the season? Let me know in the comments below. Ultimately, season 11 was, it was just showing that they still knew what they were doing and they were crafting something special for every true dadder out there. Between the introduction of the Bazooka Sharks, as well as the just absolute brilliance of the 200, season 11 just showed that, there was a ton of momentum still to go, and we still have another 7 seasons I'm actually excited to keep talking about. It's just, how does a series maintain this momentum for so long if it didn't genuinely care about its audience, if it didn't genuinely care about making great content? And American Dad has just always been high quality. So that's going to do it for this episode. Next up is season 12, that is some of my favorite episodes of all time in it. What were your favorite episodes? What were your least favorite episodes of season 12? Make sure to leave them in the season 12 review, available right now. And if you want to see more content like this ahead of everyone else, make sure to join our patron and member groups. $2 a month, and you can get all this content before everyone else and get put on this wonderful list. Ooh! Thank you all so much for watching. If you like what you saw, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Always remember to stay strong, stay you. I believe in you. Stay confident. I see you. You are doing great things. And I'll see you all next time. Goodbye, everybody.